A very warm welcome back to the C86 podcast. Today's episode is not about trends, tools or predictions. It's about perspective, about stepping back and looking at something that most hospitality businesses interact with every day, but almost never talk about properly. And that of course is procurement. Now for many operators, procurement feels like a background noise, something you deal with, something that happens between service and sleep. Emails, invoices, supplier texts, substitutions, deliveries arriving too early or too late. It's really anyone's favourite part of the job. And because of that, procurement gets labelled as admin. But the idea we're exploring today is simple and slightly uncomfortable. Procurement isn't admin at all. It's one of the most strategic parts of a hospitality business, and treating it otherwise is quietly costing operators time, money, energy and focus. This conversation isn't about blame, it's about reframing. Hospitality didn't design procurement badly on purpose, it evolved that way. Hospitality businesses start small. One site, one kitchen, a chef who knows a handful of trusted suppliers, and decisions are fast, personal, instinctive, that works for a while. But as businesses grow, complexity increases faster than structure. New suppliers get added, old ones stay because they've always been there, pricing drifts, availability fluctuates, and suddenly procurement isn't something one person understands fully. It's fragmented across teams, inboxes and conversations. What's interesting is that hospitality rarely pauses to redesign procurement as it grows. We redesign menus, we redesign interiors, we redesign service models, but procurement, it just accumulates. By the time operators notice a problem, it already feels embedded. And one of the most damaging phrases in hospitality is, well, that's just how it is. Margins are tight, suppliers are difficult, stock is unpredictable, everyone's busy, and these things get accepted as inevitable rather than interrogated. But when you step back, most of those frustrations are procurement symptoms, not necessarily hospitality truths. If teams are constantly reacting, it's usually because visibility is poor. If prices keep creeping up, it's usually because reviews aren't structured. And if quality fluctuates, it's usually because expectations aren't clearly defined from the start. And none of that is inevitable, it's just under-examined. So what happens when procurement is reactive? Reactive procurement creates a particular kind of stress. It's subtle, constant, and draining. And operators spend their energy solving yesterday's problems instead of building tomorrow's business. Decisions are rushed, alternatives aren't explored, and teams feel like they're always behind. And crucially, reactive procurement removes choice. When something runs out at the last minute, the question isn't what's the best, it's what's available. Strategy disappears and it's replaced by urgency. And over time, urgency becomes the default operating mode. And urgency, of course, is expensive. The turning point for many operators is realizing that procurement isn't a task, it's a system. Tasks are things you complete and move on from. Systems shape behavior continuously. When procurement is treated as a system, everything changes. Decisions become repeatable, outcomes become predictable, and conversations shift from firefighting to planning. Now, good systems don't remove flexibility, they enable it. When operators know what's available and at what cost, from whom, and with what reliability, they can make better decisions faster. And this is where procurement starts to feel like strategy. There is a misconception that strategic procurement is about chasing the cheapest price, which it isn't. Price matters, of course, but it's only one variable. Availability, consistency, delivery, reliability, communication, scalability. All of these affect the real cost of doing business. Now, strong procurement strategies balance these factors. They ask better questions. They define what good actually looks like. And importantly, they treat suppliers as partners, but with clarity, not blind loyalty. The strongest supplier relationships aren't emotional. They're respectful, transparent, and accountable. And everyone knows exactly where they stand. Now, ask most operators what procurement costs them, and they'll talk about invoices or price increases. But the real cost is time spent chasing orders, time spent resolving errors, time spent finding alternatives, and time spent explaining issues to teams. Time is one of the big things hospitality never has enough of, and poor procurement consumes it relentlessly. When procurement works well, time reappears, managers think more clearly, and teams are calmer. Energy shifts from survival to improvement, and that shift alone is strategic. Now, guests don't know your suppliers. They don't care about delivery schedules, but they experience the consequences. Consistency is the foundation of trust, and consistently comes from supply. When dishes are always available, when quality is predictable, when service teams feel confident and guests relax, they stop questioning and of course they come back. Procurement doesn't create hospitality, but it supports it quietly and constantly. Technology isn't the answer on its own. In hospitality, it often makes things worse when it's layered on without thought. The right technology reduces noise, it simplifies decisions, and it brings clarity without demanding attention. Strategic procurement tools should feel invisible. They should support operators rather than distract them, and they should integrate into real workflows. When technology aligns with how hospitality actually works, procurement becomes lighter, faster, and smarter. Strategic operators don't necessarily have more resources, they just allocate attention differently. They review suppliers intentionally, they question assumptions regularly, and they treat procurement decisions as business decisions, not chores. They understand that control behind the scenes creates freedom on the floor. The hospitality businesses that thrive over the next decade won't be the loudest, they'll be the most composed. They'll be the ones who simplify complexity instead of adding to it, the ones who design systems instead of relying on heroics. Procurement will be a defining factor whether operators realize it or not. So we should remember that procurement is not admin, it's strategy, it's leverage. It's one of the few areas where small improvements unlock disproportionate gains. If this conversation encourages operators to pause, review, and rethink even one supplier relationship or one process, then its job is done. Thanks for spending time with us today on the C86 podcast. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and until next time.